Hi guys, happy Thursday. So, yes, I never get the flu shot again, ever. I have never felt this fucking shitty in my entire life from a flu shot. I've never had one, so. They say the virus is dead and it can't be activated within you. Yeah, right. Bullshit. I don't believe that. Okay, so. Yeah, nothing really odd with the Annabelle. Nothing odd really at all. Although I did have the whatever, everybody does it with the crayon and, a little piece of paper, a little piece of parchment paper. Everybody does that, so I did that, and I put her in a little chair up here. She obviously can't be in that chair because she's way too big. And then this morning when I woke up at 7 a.m., the crayon was in her right hand, right arm, underneath her right arm, not her left. So that's the only thing that has been kind of creepy. It could have been me last night, so I'm not 100% sure. Stoned, probably. So yeah, nothing really weird yet, even though it did come from, the first Annabelle. Which, I'm just, whatever. So, alright. I love how people are commenting on my Warren videos about how Hollywood sensationalized everything. And the Warrens didn't sensationalize anything. Really? I don't think so. Alright. So we have the haunting legend behind the black-eyed children, and I know that this has been done many times, and you can see this on YouTube everywhere. But this is amazing. I like this. This is from this year, from last month, just on the 9th. So, what a perfect place. So, the haunting, legend behind the black-eyed children. And this is from rare.us. So, alright, these little kids look really creepy. So let's see what happens, the legend behind them. Alright, so, let's see. Alright, so today's urban legend or ghost story hails from the city of Albine, Texas. So some claim it's a hoax, while others clamored for paranormal investigators to debunk it. So you can decide for yourself what you think. Perhaps you've seen one, or even heard of this one. They're called the Black-Eyed Children. So they are of no relation to the band Black Eyed Peas. Well, of course. By the way, so skip that Google search. Alright, so who are the Black Eyed Children? Alright, so these little Black Eyed Children are supposed to, ask for, to coerce you to, let you in, let them in, and then all this weird stuff is supposed to start happening when you let them in, and they usually ask if they can come in and use the phone for help. Just really odd stuff. I've never had an experience with those. I don't even think that I don't know if they're real or not. They could be, possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, it's no stranger than the Red Sea parting or, a haunted house. So who are they? Alright, the black-eyed children, also called black-eyed kids, are mysterious beings that look to be of kids between the ages of 6 to 16 years old. So, they only appear at night and to unsuspecting adults alone, in parking lots or in their homes. So the kids come in groups of 2 or more and often ask for favors. So the favor could be to make a phone call, to get a ride home, to come in, to get something to eat, or to use the bathroom. So the few people who have had interactions with the black-eyed kids express feelings, unexplainable fear, when the children are near. So no one really knows where they came from. So extraterrestrial, UFOs, vampires, and of course demons are a number of assumptions around the kids. So there's a lot of demonic everything behind everything. So this is Brian Bethel's account with the black-eyed kids. So I honestly think they're contacts. Maybe. So, okay. Brian Bethel was one of the first people to document having met black-eyed children in real life. He published a transcription of the event on his blog back in 1998. So the following is just a part of his story. This is just a little bit. So, alright, it was about 9:30 p.m. on January 16th, 1998, and Brian left his apartment in Albine, Texas. It's very creepy. So, for the Dropbox to pay his internet bill. So on the way, he stopped at the Dollar Movie Theater next to his service provider's building to use the glow of the marquee as a light to make out his check. As he did this, there was a knock on the window and saw two young boys. He placed them between about 10 and 14 years old. He describes the boys as boy number 1. Alright, this is really, really creepy. I mean, it's very odd. Was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt with a sort of a gray checkered pattern and jeans. So he says, I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive colored and had curly, medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. It's a little creepy. It is a little creepy, a lot creepy. Alright, so boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. So he was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was a short, sort of a pale orange, so they didn't appear to be related, at least directly. So, I don't know. It's very strange. They have some very strange photos in here about the black-eyed kids, and I just wouldn't want that to... I wouldn't want to meet them. Maybe I might. Alright, so almost immediately he knew something was up and felt a sense of fear. The first boy began to tell Bethel that they need his help. They wanted to see the new Mortal Kombat movie, but forgot their money. Instead of asking for the money itself, the boy asked for a lift to their house to retrieve it. So our narrator is nervous and hesitant as the first boy continued to try to coax him, saying things like, come on, mister, we just want to go to our house and we're just two little boys, and come on, mister, let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, just let us in. And we'll be done before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house. So I don't know if these are, these look like they could be Photoshop photos. Very much so of the black-eyed kids. And that middle one looks like a doll. So it very well could be just a doll. Yeah, it does look like a doll. No, I don't know, maybe not. Huh. I don't know, it's odd. So, Brian Bethel found himself unlocking the door without realizing, and as if instructed by the child to do so. That's a little creepy. After catching his hands, he looks back at the kids with a fresh perspective. That's when he realized that the kids' eyes were solid black, no sclera, no iris, no pupil. So all the stories of people meeting black-eyed kids claim that once you realize their eyes are all black, things get dangerous. The second boy continued to stand there completely silent, while the first boy threatens him, saying, we won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun, according to Bethel. The boy was implying that they didn't need guns. He started pulling at the door and demanding to be let in. With the courage he managed to find, Bethel pushed his car into reverse and sped home, leaving the boys where he found them. Alright, now the next encounter. Alright, so fast forward to November 14th of 1998. Brian has an update for us. For his ghost hunting blog email list. So, I really like this kind of, it's really cool. Alright, so he apparently didn't talk too much else about the black-eyed kids after the first post, even though his audience was hounding him with questions. The next one to encounter the kids is his friend John. So John Northwood was one of Brian's online friends, who was a pagan rights coordinator for an organization called Spirit. I like that. Brian Bethel claims that he never told his friend about this encounter. Yeah, this is an interaction they had towards the end of the same year. So so it takes place over chat. It starts with John asking if they really believe in ghosts or kids with funny eyes, and then launches into his own anecdote with a group of black-eyed kids. That's odd. That's very odd. Have you guys ever experienced any kind of thing like that? Black-eyed kids? I don't know, it'd just be very strange to guess. So, alright, more black-eyed kids sightings. So, since then, the accounts have slowly grown. So they have been just, when I was younger, it was on Unsolved Mysteries and all that good stuff, so. But yes, the stories do grow and continue on. Alright, so they reached an all-time high in 2013 when they made the news thanks to a weekly strange video submitted to MSN. A video was uploaded giving an alleged look at them. It was, however, quickly discredited, which only increases the mystery and curiosity shrouding the mysterious children. So to date, there have been many claims, conversations, threads, countless videos, and even a book by author David Weatherly. An indie director, Nick Hagen, directed a horror film incorporating the eerie characters into the plot line. It's called Black-Eyed Kids and incorporates a YouTube series he was working on called Sunshine. Interesting. Very. So, the movie was released on 12/21/12, right before the world was slated to end according to the Mayan calendar, for the extra spooky feel, So yeah, the Mayans knew that we wouldn't need a calendar after theirs ended, so it was the end of the Piscean age, and it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius, so that is what the whole Mayan calendar is all about. I don't know why I know that. Alright, so what are they? No one really knows what these kids are. The people who claim to see them and spend their free time hunting ghosts swear they're legit. Others aren't so convinced. So, the most interesting theory concerning the children's origins I've come across with this one. It comes from a book, Your Haunted Lives. Oh, the Black-Eyed Kids. According to this legend, the kids may be called Otkin, spoken of in ancient Iroquois Indian legends. Huh. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I don't have any stories. I don't have anything to say for myself. I've never had an encounter with these things, these kids. So it's just going to have to be these people's experiences. But the Iroquois Indians believed in a dark power called the Otkin that could take over children, and an evil one would mate with human females to produce black-eyed, chalky-skinned children. So these children were killed by the tribe soon after birth and burned to stop them from resurrecting. Children wandering alone in the woods could also be taken over by Otkan, and would reemerge with black eyes and pale skin, acting nervously while repeating themselves over and over. Their goal was to destroy the tribe and infect all of the people with Otkan. So, are you a believer? I don't know. Naturally, do with this information what you will. I personally take everything I see on the internet with a grain of salt. However, I will say this: good old spooky season is upon us, my friends. So beware. That's interesting stuff. So, yeah, I like it. I really like that one. So I'm not sure. I have never, ever had an experience with them. You can watch Black-Eyed Children, Let Me In, on Amazon Prime Video, which is good. Very good. Now we have terrifying encounters with the Black-Eyed Children. So, and they just look like dolls. They honestly look like dolls. So I'm not 100% sure. Alright, so obviously we all know that the Black-Eyed Kids are a folk phenomena of people having strange encounters with kids whose eyes are entirely black, who insist upon entering their vehicle or home, and who seem to ooze an overwhelming sense of fear and panic. Alright, so as a fan of Paranormal Talk Radio, I've heard hundreds of encounters with the black-eyed kids, and am fascinated with each time. So I searched Reddit for some stories to share with the new audience. So they were by far the creepiest. So one, we have the Midnight Caller, which this is pretty, this is strange. So, alright, this one goes, it almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed, where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter. Staring at our door like an unknown stranger, was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over a house noise. Said we only had her for about 3 months, and she was still a puppy. So if it could have been anything, our room made a creak from the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned initially. It could be contacts again. Contacts. Kirby always rules that out. Alright, so he says, I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. It sounds a bit silly, but it's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared, and I figured it should work with the puppy too. I opened the door and she raced to the door. She stood there, snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one I had never heard before make. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate, blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. Alright, this is a little creepy. Alright, so the second my hand reached from the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumping toward me. And when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid and backing down. As her mannerism changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I had been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole. I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were 2 kids. That'd be a little creepy. Just a little bit. A little creepy. So, one was just a smidgen shorter than me and didn't look much younger. So I'm 21 and oh wow. And she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde, and she wore it long, about mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a tight wash that's popular right now, a thin-looking olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. So she held the hand of a small girl who looked to be around 3 or 4, in the same style jeans and a button-down ivory cardigan. At least they have good taste. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly. She had the same shade of hair tied back into a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to the one that, he says, my daughter has, as was their style of dress. So had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled, nothing. I hadn't turned out any lights. These kids had no indicators I was at the door. The older one spoke. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, we have to use your phone. I stood in fear. How did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that was when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs before. They were black, or midnight blue, or a dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly, she said. Our mother is worried. That's really odd. So, as someone who has been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was... I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I have never been one to believe in these things. As a staunch atheist and skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many a ghost story from friends and family members eager to tell their tale. So I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. That'd be a little creepy. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. So, I did not answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door. Lucy still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. Just let us in to use your phone. I took another step back, and with that step, that tone changed. First, she seemed polite. When I took a second step back, she became commanding and almost hostile. We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone? That's creepy. That is very creepy. Where'd I go? Okay, Lucy snarled, the dog, at the door, and I inched backward, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me toward the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. Alright, I go to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the nightlight. I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night. I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them at the BEKs, Black-Eyed Kids can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, it said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget it, but this lingering sense of sadness, this dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door, this tells me otherwise. Yeah, that is a little weird. Yeah, that's seriously, it's just a little weird. So we have a bus encounter now. So, goes on to say, I was riding the bus back home from after work. It was about 1 a.m. I'm a security guard and often work odd hours. So I'm sitting there and this guy gets on, sits across from me. He was wearing a suit and had a briefcase, regular looking guy in his 20s. What struck me about him first was that he was chewing a cigar, not smoking it. You can't smoke on the bus, so I was just looking at him while he stared out the window, chewed his cigar. All of a sudden he turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black, just as you described. Contacts possible? My heart started beating like a mad motherfucker. Haha, I like that. And I felt my gorge. Really? I was starting to panic and I had no idea why. I was just slightly terrified of this guy. Then he grinned at me and his teeth were all covered in tobacco bits and brown juice. The cigar clamped between them. Ew. I almost screamed, but instead I had the presence of mind to just get up and take the seat right behind the driver. I would have too. I calmed down a bit after that, but I kept an eye on the guy. He ended up chatting with some girl that got on, and they were still talking when I got off. I later convinced myself he was just trolling me, having more fun with a pair of contacts. Now I wonder. Wow. So that's eerie. It's very eerie in a sense. Why do I feel blurry? There. Oh, I still feel blurry. It's very strange. There we go. A little better. Kinda. Alright. Now, here's 10 facts about the Black-Eyed Kids. Black-Eyed Kids will look like normal human children between the ages of 6 and 16, but with pale skin and completely black eyes. Additionally, people who have been in close proximity to the Black-Eyed Kids report a feeling of unease that washed over them, while nothing about the children's appearance, aside from their eyes, genuinely frightened the people. They still reported feeling ranging from anxiety to terror at their presence. Some people have also reported seeing Black-Eyed Kids that have talons for feet or other demonic attributes, but most sightings are seemingly normal children. Black-Eyed Kids are almost commonly described as wearing dated clothing or dressing in a manner that is not typical of a normal child their age. Okay? Black-Eyed children always ask for something. It is always something that involves being in closed quarters with you. They will ask you for a ride in your vehicle or to enter your home to use the phone. There are no reported stories of what happens when you let a Black-Eyed Kid into your vehicle or home. All stories come from people whose eerie feelings made them flee from the children. Alright, so the earliest sighting of Black-Eyed Kid was a journalist, Brian Bethel, in 1996. So it only goes back to 1996. The story has been added to the internet and creepypasta lore, but to this day Bethel insists the incident was real and happened the way he reported. Alright, now in 2014, a British paper reported that sightings of black-eyed kids around the world are rising. Theories about black-eyed kids are that they are vampires, aliens, or of demonic origin. It's really different. I don't know, honestly. I've never experienced anything like that. Nothing, ever. So I'm not sure. Right now we have one for Halloween. This is number 3. So this is so funny. I've never heard of the Black-Eyed Kids before my incident, so I come on here to post my story, and the first story I see is about the Black-Eyed Kids. Weird. So this person says, let me preface this by saying I am no means a writer, just a domestic engineer living in North Texas. Also, I don't believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever. However, I did have an event happen to me this Halloween. I have to admit, has me scratching my head. So this is my first post on Reddit, and sorry to say I've never even heard about it until yesterday. So it goes on to say, I told my best friend about the incident, and she's even an avid reader of No Sleep. And she told me if I didn't post it, she would, so here I am. Anyway, hope you like. So, it had been a slow trick-or-treating night in our neighborhood that evening, which was pretty odd in itself. We usually have kids from different areas dropped off in ours and have a constant parade at our door. That night, I'd say we had no more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come by the entire night. So it was about 9:30 p.m. and my husband and I were sitting in our family room watching some of those ghost shows based on supposedly actual events. Like I said, I don't believe in that stuff, but I like a good ghost story every now and then. And it was Halloween and all. So he goes on to say, we hadn't had any activity at the door in over half an hour. And it was getting late, so we decided to turn the porch light off. And let our dog, Chloe, out of her crate. Chloe is an American Bulldog and is very docile. So we only put her in her crate because we were afraid she'd try and get out to play with all the kids, and I didn't want to have to chase after her down the street. Also, we didn't want her to scare any of the kids because she would look a little intimidating to the younger kids. Huh. Very different. Very different. I mean, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Oh yeah, okay. Anyway, sorry guys. Okay, so he says, or she says, so I turned the outside light off, let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch and lay down at my feet. It was getting close to 10 p.m. when my husband decided he'd had enough for the night. I was going to go upstairs, take a shower. There we go. Take a shower and get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday and he still had to get up early the next day. My teenage son was out with his girlfriend at a local haunted house. Wasn't expected back for another hour or so. That left me alone on the couch with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean those shows don't freak me out a bit. And being alone now watching, I'd have to say, was kind of on edge, as if, as it were. It wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower turn on when there came a knock, knock, knock at the front door. My initial reaction was, what the hell, really? It's almost 10, go home. I like that. I would say that too, what the hell, go home. But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows in the dark, and without the porch light, it'd be extra obvious to anyone there. I paused. I couldn't really just ignore it. Our front door has a big beveled glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see in enough to see someone was in the family room watching TV. so it was pretty rude for me to just sit there and not answer it. Knock, knock, knock. Again, from the door, I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone. My gaze followed her usual path to the front door, expecting her to be on her way as she normally does. So, nothing. She wasn't even there. So, she says I stood up to look around the room better and found her, crouching by the back door like she was wanting out. A little creepy. It's a little creepy. Okay. Where did I go? Okay, so however, she never asks to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hand or puts her head on my knee. Aw. This was totally out of character for her. And I have to say, heightened my anxiety. Chloe, great, I said. She turned back to look at me like, hell no, lady, ain't moving. I yelled up to my husband, but he was already in the shower. I knew there was no chance of him hearing me. So, knock, knock, knock. A little weird. About that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door to where I could see the silhouettes of two small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. It was just some kids, probably a couple of neighbors on their way back home, that wanted to stop by and show me their costume or something. I headed to the door and looked back to make sure Chloe wasn't going to follow. So what a great watchdog, I thought to myself as she just sat there. So I turned the porch light on. Then, when I got to the door, and sure enough, I could see through the glass that it was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and I began to wonder what kind of parents would let their kids run around the streets that late at night. I only opened the door enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she decided to grow some balls, which was only about 2 feet, which struck me immediately as odd. The kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes. Also, no customary trick-or-treat either. I began to feel very uneasy. Ooh, that's weird. It's very weird. Very different. Alright, so it was a girl and a boy. The girl to my left was older, I'd say about 11 or 12. I could tell that she was blonde, but I couldn't make out any distinct features as our lights are from high above and on columns at the front of the porch, so most of the light was coming from behind them. I had not opened the door wide enough for any light from inside to hit them directly. The boy was younger, about a foot shorter, I'd say 8 or 9, and looked to have light brown hair. So, the girl very politely spoke up. "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom?" As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid, even at that age, doesn't have a cell phone of their own these days? I couldn't remember the last time I had anybody ask to use my phone. Hun, don't you have a phone of your own you can call your mom on?" I asked. This was really getting weird. Both kids turned to look at one another like they were going to say something to one another, but neither ever spoke. They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here, and my brother is scared." That's very odd. Very odd. So, I have to admit that there were two competing feelings going on inside me. The first, that of a mother's heart that wanted to help those two children get to their mother. The other, a sinking fear in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. It was then I noticed that during the short conversation I had already opened the door a few extra inches, which I was completely unaware of doing. I stopped. "Honey, why don't you give me your mother's number and I can call her myself?" Another pause, and they looked at each other again. After a short moment they turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom?" And with that last statement, the little girl moved closer toward the door, like she was going just to walk in by me. As she did, she stepped into the light coming from inside the house, and I got my first real good look at her. Solid jet black eyes, that's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone and replaced by terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where just my face was able to stick out. The little girl stopped again and pleaded, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry. That would be really odd. I don't know what I'd do in that kind of a situation, honestly. So that's when the fear took over and I shut and locked the door. "I'll call your mom if you give me the number," I shouted through the door, "but I'm not letting you in my house." I could still see them standing there on the porch, just staring at me through the beveled glass. So part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part didn't want to lose track of where they were. That would have freaked me out even more to not know where they were. Yeah, that'd be creepy. So after what seemed like forever, but probably only a few seconds, I decided I'd call my neighbor that lives across the street. So as I made my way to the side table by our couch, my phone, I glanced at the back door. Chloe's nowhere to be found. We later found her in the guest room, under the bed. When I got my phone and started to look for his contact info, it was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk to the street. As they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went. Still, not calling my neighbor. If you get close enough to the glass, you can see enough to make out people's shapes, but you can't see much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone looking inside. So, from the door, I could see that the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest to my house, staring at me as I lifted the phone to my ear after calling. Only then the kids started walking down our street. I met my neighbor, but under the lamp once he was out there. But the kids were nowhere to be seen. It's a little creepy. I don't know what I would do in that kind of a position. I don't know what I would do. I would definitely turn my light on. I would definitely get my recorder out or my iPad or something. So, okay, like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff and never ever had heard about the Black Eyed Kids before talking to my friend. What I have to think, is these kids were just out yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them. They were good, really good at it. They scared. Where did I go? Where did I go? They scared the shit out of me and my dog. Text message video when the Black Eyed Kids show up. Alright, years ago I heard these creepy stories about kids with black eyes who would try to get into your car or home, commonly referred to as the Black Eyed Kids. This paranormal phenomena is usually told from the perspective of someone who has escaped an encounter with one of them. No one really knows what happens when you when you let them into your home. Well, this person in the next text chain might. So, 4, you must let me in. So, on March 17th of 2008, I had my one and only encounter with a Black Eyed Kid. Before my experience, I never heard of anything having to do with Black Eyed Kids. I was 12. I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup waiting for my mom to get her hair cut. About 15 minutes had passed, and I saw some kid walking back and forth along the sidewalk in front of my parked car. At first I thought I recognized him as one of my friends from school, so I banged on the front windshield until he looked my way. It was not anyone I knew. At this point I was not scared at all, not yet. The boy walked over to the side of my car and just stares. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes to freak me out. Let me tell you, if you have never seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. Pupils black as the night sky. The boy whispers, "You must let me in," and then I locked the car doors and ducked down into the space below the seats. 5 minutes later, he was gone. When my mother got into the car, she told me a boy with black eyes had come into the hairdresser's and had insisted for my mother to give him the keys to the car. She refused. Thank God she did. Wow. So I don't know what don't know what to believe about that. I don't know if they're real. I've never seen them. But we do have a movie now about the black-eyed kids, so I had no clue. That's incredible. That's amazing. So, what would you guys do if they came to your door? Would you let them in, or no? I wouldn't. No, I would not. I don't know, honestly. Nah, I wouldn't. So, but alright, guys. Yeah, I gotta go rest because I feel like shit, so. I love you all very, very, very much. All the way from Venus and all the way back down. And I will see you all tomorrow. And yeah, everybody have a great day. Enjoy those stories. They did kind of give me chills, but you know, whatever. So, alright guys, I love you all, and all of you have a great day. It's finally this kind of weather, whatever this is called. A little jacket, sweater thing. Yeah, so, alright guys, I love you all, and I will see you guys tomorrow.